Buckingham Palace is reportedly in talks to find a new home for Sarah Ferguson as discussions continue over Prince Andrew's future at Royal Lodge.
The couple still share the 30-room Windsor residence along with the late Queen's doggies, but according to the Sun newspaper, Prince Andrew gave the King an ultimatum demanding that he should be given Frogmore Cottage for himself and Adelaide Cottage. We use these little terms, these little cottages. These are mansions, these are for Miss Ferguson.
Well, this comes as the King was heckled about his brother's links to Jeffrey Epstein during a visit to Lichfield Cathedral in Staffordshire yesterday.
How long have you known about Andrew and Epstein? Have you asked the police to cover up for Andrew? Have you asked the police to cover up for Andrew's trials? What do you think? Should the MPs be allowed to debate the royals in the House of Commons?
Well, our royal correspondent Cameron Walker joins us live in the studio now. And Cameron, it is such a shame that Prince Andrew has overshadowed the really important work that the King was doing yesterday.
It is, and it really disappointed actually a number of the well-wishers who come out to greet the King. So it was one single lone protester. He wore a big trench coat, he had his hood up, so he didn't want his face to be seen when he started yelling at the King. And the crowd physically pulled him back. Yeah. So the security and the police were not involved at all. It was the crowd who were so angry with him, because what happened was, of course, the King didn't want to walk directly past him, and his aides certainly didn't want him to walk directly past the protester. So he went over to the other side of the road, yes, to the rest of the crowd. So those members of the crowd who happened to be stood next to the protester lost out on their chance of seeing King Charles. But of course, that's just one point to make. The second point is what he was shouting, and that was, how much did you know about your brother's links to Jeffrey Epstein and all the rest of it? So it is yet again unfortunate that Prince Andrew has overshadowed, as you say, Ellie, the work of the royal family, and I think it's pretty clear that there is some kind of negotiation going on to move Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson out of Royal Lodge. But Sarah Ferguson, Eamon, she's effectively a lodger. The King doesn't really have any kind of responsibility or obligation to her, unless, of course, they fear, and this is what's been reported in the Mail this morning, they fear that she could do a spare, if you like, a tell-all memoir. She's already written 2 memoirs before. So does the King want to keep her in favour? Now, obviously, that's speculation, of course, but it's really tricky balance for the King, trying to force
but she's never said a bad word about Andrew. I mean, their relationship obviously is very good. There is an understanding between them, so anything she would write would be with the implicit authority of Andrew, would it not? Well,
I think the King's been pretty kind to Sarah Ferguson over the last few years, inviting her to Christmas and all the rest of it. The problem was the email which she had written, the grovelling email she had written to Jeffrey Epstein, having said, of course, that she had nothing else to do with him. And this is why she's got herself in this situation. But, of course, the fact of the matter remains, Royal Lodge, Prince Andrew or Sarah not paying rent, which indirectly affects taxpayers, and they are losing out on the funds they could potentially be making from the rent of Royal Lodge.
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private Internet Access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cybercriminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C-18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private Internet Access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GB News discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee. and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GB News to start protecting yourself digitally today.
Jack Stokes, let's get the opinions now of Royal Commentator. Jack, what did you think about that heckling that went on yesterday?
Hi, Eamon. Yeah, no, well, we've seen this time and time again, haven't we? I think we saw it, the last time we saw it was at the late Queen's funeral. There was a heckler at that, and they got shut down quite quickly as well. They don't tend to answer to hecklers anyway. It's always ignored. So it seems pretty pointless. And like you say, it's normally somebody trying to get some attention on themselves in that kind of instance, which is unfortunate. And, you know, the King's not done anything wrong. He's actually trying to go about his day-to-day work. He's still sort of struggling on as he always has. You know, he's a real hard worker, and he doesn't need to hear that kind of situation when he's trying to deal with it probably behind closed doors with his brother. What's going on there? Because that's a completely different matter.
Because this is a problem, Andrew is a problem that simply won't go away. No. Well, that, again, you know, so behind closed doors, I think that there are discussions going on. I think Prince Andrew does know that this isn't going away himself, and now he's sort of trying to say, right, well, what can I do instead? How can I, you know, sort of go away quietly? So now if he's suggesting he's moving to smaller houses, but that isn't a problem. That's a problem in itself, and I don't think that will go away, because then we'll have public going, well, why is he moving to another house on the royal estates? He should be moving completely away from the royal estates. And you know, they're still looking into the emails. They're looking into those emails in New York, and what else is going to come out of those emails, we still don't know. Prince Andrew still, you know, we reiterate, hasn't been found guilty of anything as yet. So I think there's that difficulty with the King, knowing that there's been no supposed guilt found on his part. I mean, yes, we know that he's had dodgy investments. He's not probably the most open of the royal family, so that's a problem, and that's where the King's going, I think, on that front. You know,
but Jack, the big question screaming out. I'm looking at page 5 in the Daily Mail today, and they have one big question, and that big question is, why should the King, in their words, say, house two non-working royals who have brought nothing but shame to the royal family? So what is the obligation, do you think?
I think the obligation is that it is his brother, and at the moment there's been no guilt found. So I think it's very difficult for the King. You know, if it's your own brother saying, look, I've never been found guilty of anything, and now you're trying to force me out, it's quite difficult to come to terms with that, knowing that you're trying to force somebody out for something that supposedly he hasn't done.
The Mail are also saying about Sarah that she is completely on the edge, and she has nowhere to go and no one to go with.
I think they do have places to go. They've got their children. They've got probably quite a lot of money that they've built up over all of their investments throughout the world that they've been dealing with. But I do feel that, you know, the palace should just be able to say, look, if they think he's innocent, say, look, he's innocent, come on in. Interview everybody you want to, and have a look through all our paperwork, you know, look through any dossiers you want. Let's just open it all up and say, come on in and find him innocent. But they're not doing that. It almost feels like they've closed ranks. So something's not going on in the correct way.